welcome to the North Fair Oaks Community Council for the month of February 2018. And if we can begin with roll call, Victor, please.
Of course. Chair Everardo Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chair Beatriz Cerrillo.
Here.
Rosario Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Linda Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Rosario Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Mary Martinez.
Here.
And Youth Member Yesenia Mendez.
Present.
Thank you.
It's the last thing on our agenda.
If there's any public comment about anything that's not on the tonight's agenda, anybody can fill out a comments slip, which is up at the front desk. Otherwise, the other comments, we'll discuss them at the end of each item, when each item is discussed. I see no public comment, so we will move on with the item number 3. We'll have a presentation on Get Us Moving, San Mateo County. A presentation by Jessica Epstein from the San Mateo County Transit District.
Hi. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this presentation tonight. So, Get Us Moving San Mateo County is a collaborative effort between the San Mateo County Transit District, the San Mateo Board of Supervisors, and really every city in the county has been involved in this. And what we are doing is identifying and prioritizing transit and transportation needs in this county. So one of the first questions we get a lot is, who is everybody? And so there's the San Mateo County Transit District, and that's who I work for. And under us, we operate Samtrans, which is the bus system, and paratransit. We also manage Caltrain, the train that goes from San Jose down to Gilroy. And we administer the local transportation authority funds, which is the current half-cent sales tax, which funds a number of things, including large-scale infrastructure projects. There's also CCAG, which does countywide transportation planning, and Commute.org, which I'm sure everyone has seen those shuttles. Most of us are involved in that, but it is an example of one of the many shuttle programs that happens in this county. So San Mateo is changing pretty dramatically right now. Thank you. It's below me? Is that, ooh.
There's a speaker right above you.
Is that what's going on? All right. Okay, I'm gonna step a little back from that. So San Mateo County is changing pretty dramatically right now. There's a projection of population growth of 26% by 2040. One of the biggest population changes we're seeing is that those over 65, that population is going to grow by 137% by 2040. This is particularly impactful on our transit district because of our paratransit services. Currently, we give 320,000 rides a day or a year for paratransit. We're projecting by 2040 that's going to go up to 1 million rides a year. Now, paratransit is one of the most important services we give. It is for those who are disabled or otherwise cannot use our regular bus route service, but it's also far and away the most expensive service that we give. And one of the other changes is that a lot of the new housing legislation coming out of Sacramento is really focused on transit-oriented development, which, though very important, does tax the transit system more. So this slide I like to call our tale of woe, but this is really what we all know, right? We all know that we didn't recuperate from the last round of big rains in terms of potholes on the streets. We all know the highways are incredibly clogged, that the trains are past capacity, the buses are past capacity. And one of the things we're also seeing is more and more people are taking their bikes to work, but there is not enough funding to connect all the bike lanes. As an example, under the current tax measure, we recently did a call for projects, and there was $5 million to give to cities to grant for funding bike and ped programs, and we got $8 million worth of requests. So we were $3 million over what we actually had to give away. So one of the good news is there's a lot of people working on this, and there's a lot of very good ideas on how to fix the 10192 interchange, the Dumbarton Bridge, which lets people to ease traffic congestion in the East Palo Alto, Bellhaven area. There's at Samtrans, at the transit district, we have both a youth mobility plan that is now in effect and a senior mobility plan that we're starting to look at. How can we better serve seniors? We've done work out on the coast. We're looking at converting the fleet to electric. There's a lot of different things that our transit district and then all the cities and CCAG are doing to improve transit and transportation in this county. But these are very expensive projects. As an example, the 10192 interchange, we're looking at a good fix for that would be a $160 million project. Now, for all of these big infrastructure projects in particular, we always apply for state and federal grants. We are a competitive region. We are an economic powerhouse, but those state and federal grants are not guaranteed, and they're very competitive. So this slide is essentially an example of what we've already done and where we're going. So grade separations. Caltrain is electrifying. There will be more trains. We are working on a business plan for Caltrain to really maximize the system. But what does that do for the cities? Well, you have any at-grade crossing currently has a traffic jam. That will only get worse as more trains run. Through the current funding, 13 have been paid for, and there's 3 currently under construction in San Mateo, but there's 29 additional at-grade crossings in San Mateo County. It is actually an unfortunate luck of the San Mateo County. There are significantly more at-grade crossings in San Mateo than in Santa Clara County or San Francisco. You can see a number of the large construction projects we've done, but still so many more to do. And, an interesting thing, CCAG, just to repave all the roads, the need right now is $2 billion in the county just for road resurfacing. We've also gotten a lot of questions about SB1 and RM3. Essentially is that, well, isn't this stuff already paid for? It is not. SB1, which is otherwise kind of colloquially known as the gas tax, a lot of funds for that are dedicated to this region. However, that is threatened with repeal, so that is tenuous. RM3, again, there's a lot of funds. For instance, 50 million of the 160 million for 10192 would be dedicated out of RM3 funding, but the voters need to approve that in June. So again, that is not guaranteed funds. So our state legislators got a bill passed in Sacramento that allows the San Mateo County Transit District, with the consent of the Board of Supervisors, to place a half-cent sales tax on the ballot. We predict that this would generate $80 million a year, $2.4 billion over 30 years, and it would need both the approval of the Board of Supervisors and the Transit District. And then if it goes to the ballot, we're looking at November 2018, and it needs 2/3 of the voters to support it for it to be adopted. So that's where Get Us Moving comes in. This is the process where we are developing the expenditure plan that would become the ballot measure. Where are the transportation needs? Where should the transportation funding go? We have been going to all sorts of different community groups. We have presented at almost every city in the county. We will, in March, have presented to every city. We're actually tonight holding a town hall in South San Francisco, and we've been running TV spots, social media, and we did this mailer. And the mailer went to 140,000 people all over the county. And the responses from this mailer is one of the elements that will go to inform the expenditure plan. And so we have a bunch of them there, and there's a bunch of them at the front. We have them in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog. these are the way the citizens get a voice in this. This is the general public's voice. These are postage prepaid, so all you have to do is take it, put your return address down, stick it in the mail, no stamp necessary, and it's 12 questions about what your priorities are for transportation funding in this county. Should it be bike ped? Should it be more around highway congestion? Should it be more around bus service? If there was more funding coming in, where do you think that money should go? That's what this survey is, because we want this to be a citizen-led process. This needs to be the right expenditure plan for this county, and we'll only know that through public participation. We're lucky enough we've had 12,000 responses so far, and we need more. So we've convened 2 groups, a technical advisory group that's made up of public works directors and city managers from every city in the county, and a stakeholder advisory group, which is everyone for advocates for seniors to large employers to bike advocates to chambers of commerce to public safety officers, and they're the ones who are going to take various different inputs, one being this survey, another being a public poll we're doing, and use that to develop the outlines of an expenditure plan. One of the things we did, it was a call for projects. We basically asked all the cities to tell us their need, to give us a snapshot of current need. That current need came to about $11 billion. We understand that $2 billion won't take care of all of that, but it would fund a number of projects in this region for getting transportation and transit moving in San Mateo County. So these are some of the goals that the board has adopted. So that's one of the other inputs. This is what the Transit District Board has adopted in terms of how they want to see this expenditure plan work out in the end. And it really, I mean, you can see at the top of everyone's concept is relieving traffic congestion, but we're also looking at economic vitality. How do we get more riders on the bus? Enhancing safety. And so I get asked a lot, what's the expenditure plan? Where's the money going? And this is the answer. We're still working it out. We need these inputs. We need these surveys back. We need our polling data back. We're analyzing the call for projects right now. The likelihood is that it'll look something like Measure B in Santa Clara County with large buckets. And within those buckets, percentages of funding for each bucket. But we don't know yet. That's what this process is getting the information that will help us develop what those buckets are and how much funding should go into each of those buckets. So we're also going to have a phase 2, and it's basically we'll have a draft expenditure plan, and we'll be back out in the community asking, is this right? Does this reflect what you wanted us to put in there? We're hoping to develop really actually an online budgeting tool where people can build their own expenditure plan. And we plan to take this to the Transit District and the Board of Supervisors in June. So really, we're asking for as much get the word out as possible. Take a stack of these on your way out the door. Have your friends and neighbors do them. Again, postage prepaid. All you have to be is a San Mateo County resident. It's very important to put your address or at the very least your zip code on it so we know where these are coming from. The slide's going to leave tonight because we are on our last town hall, but we've gone to every corner of the county hosting a town hall. And we're easy to find online. You can also take the survey online. And so it's mobile enabled. You could take it on your phone. It's the exact same survey. If you don't want to do the paper version, easy to do online. So if there's any questions, thank you.
Thanks very much for your presentation. If there are any questions from council members, please go ahead.
Hi. I'm always interested in knowing what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
How long is the survey going to run? And I saw the breakdown on the committees. And then what happens next?
Sure.
Because we do a lot of surveys. There have been so many transportation assessments over the years, but so it's good to know what's going to happen next. And how do you present that information back to the people that you're asking to fill this out?
Right. So this survey, we had initially contemplated closing it February 28th because, quite frankly, because we weren't able to get in front of one of the councils until March and we don't want to lock them out. We're going to keep it open longer than that. What happens is we have our stakeholder and technical advisory groups, and they're meeting in a facilitated process separately. And they're going to get, and they have already gotten the first round of it, but they're going to get all the survey results. So they're going to know what we call these the really active citizens, the citizens who want to say something, what they think. They're also going to get polling data, which is the professional, scientific. This is what the scientific results are for how funding should be spent. And then they're also going to get the information on the call for projects. And this is where the cities tell us their need is. So we have our engaged citizen, our scientific citizen, and our city's need. And they're going to take all of this information and, for lack of a better word, debate and figure out from this what kind of categories come out of the citizens' desires, the city's needs, and develop the categories. So this comes back to the community as an expenditure plan. But it's a draft expenditure plan. It is not done. So we will be back out in the community saying, okay, these are our buckets. You know, and let's say hypothetically one is, I'm going to pick something random, you know, streetscapes. That's not going to be streetscapes. But let's say it's streetscapes, just landscaping. When we put 20% into landscaping, well, that's not realistic. And the community will say, that is not what we want. We want traffic congestion or something like that. So all of these inputs go into the stakeholder and technical group, and out the other side, hopefully in April, will come a draft expenditure plan that will be back out in the community shopping to say, did this reflect what you think the transportation needs are? Not everyone's going to win. Not everyone's going to get exactly what they need, but we're trying to use all these different inputs to come up with the best reflection of the community's needs.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
to the
Rosa.
chair. I have a question regarding the workshop. There is any list of different places where you're going to have the workshops in the future you know, to the community knows to.
So we have had 4, and the last one's tonight for phase 1. And we did a lot of publicizing. We asked our stakeholders in our technical advisory group to put it out. We've relied really heavily on both paid Facebook ads and Nextdoor to publicize these. We will be out again for round 2 of workshops with the actual expenditure plan.
Okay, and also I have another question regarding what are you doing to motivate the community to use the public transportation? Because there is a lot of comment in the community saying that having a car is the same cost as using the transportation.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you just said.
Yeah, my question is, what are you doing to motivate the community to use the public transportation?
You know, I will say we have seen a decline in ridership that on our bus system, and that is happening in almost every bus system in the country. Fewer people are riding the bus. So we talk about that a lot internally. How can we get more people on the bus? So one of the things, for instance, is the youth mobility plan. We have actually hired her title is outreach coordinator, but her focus is youth, working directly with the schools and trying to get more students to know the options for taking the bus and getting more students on the bus. We are going to hopefully be doing a pilot with vouchers for riding taxis. So we're looking a lot at our ECR, which is the El Camino bus. It is our most heavily used. How can we maximize that? We plan on being out actually with a survey in the not so distant future about improvements to ECR and what does the community want to see in terms of improvement. So we are constantly talking with our bus operations people, our marketing people, our community affairs people about different ways to get more people to ride the bus. You know, there's a push-pull between coverage and frequency. We want to be everywhere quickly. We can't. There isn't the funding for that. So choices have to be made about coverage versus frequency and where we do it in our, you know, limited resources in terms of the bus. But we talk about that and we think about that a lot.
Yeah, because I always, I noticed that there's some school, they have a transportation bus, you know, commute, but not every school. I think it's a good idea to provide to more school to.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of traffic, you know, a certain time of the day.
So we are prohibited by federal law from running bus or school buses. We can only run buses that anyone can get on and off. So we do try to work with the school districts, and that's the one thing the new youth mobility coordinator
Great.
to do is to work with the school districts to make sure we are maximizing our benefit to them without violating federal law.
Thank you very much.
Do you have a question? Yeah, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a comment. Do you have a plan to use electric buses?
So we have a pilot, a 10-bus electric pilot, or 10 electric bus pilot that is funded. And so we should be launching our pilot buses soon, and we are working on our internal plan. The goal is a complete fleet conversion, or actually, I'm sorry, a 70% fleet conversion. 30% of our fleet is actually operated by a contractor, so that's a lot more complicated. But for the buses we operate, we have the goal of a complete conversion to electric. We need to find the funding and work out the plan, but we are at the, I would say, the initial stages of that, but the agency is definitely moving in that direction. And quite frankly, we expect the state to mandate it within the year. But yes, look for those 10 buses. They will be on the road, hopefully soon. They just need to get built first.
You mentioned a half-a-cent sales tax as a potential source of revenue for some of these projects, and I'm wondering if you guys are also considering that some of these large corporations are really bringing, a lot of employees, and that in itself is kind of overwhelming, the transportation, public transportation system. So I wonder if, I know that in the case of the Dumbarton corridor, Facebook is contributing to some extent some money, at least to the starting studies. But I wonder if there are any other corporations that are, stepping up and trying to cooperate,
Sure.
et cetera.
Well, so as a transit district, we don't have the authority to do an employer tax or an employee tax. I get asked that a fair amount. We can't, we don't have the legal authority to tax employers, but we do a lot in the public-private partnership world. So right now, the big focus is Dumbarton Facebook. At our last board meeting, one of our head of planning and grants talked about that partnership. They have already funded an initial study. We need more studies, so they're forming an internal working group. We're going to work together into the next phase. I think as time goes by, you will see more and more large-scale funding or visibility coming from employer partners with the transit district. This is new to have really big public-private partnerships in transit. We're really engaged with it and really interested in it. So I would say certainly over the next few years, you're likely to see a lot more in that area, like what Facebook has done with Dumbarton.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay,
Thanks very
well, thanks
much
for giving me the
your time.
opportunity to talk tonight.
And is there any public comment in this regard? I don't see any, so we will move on to item number 4, is the presentation by the City of Redwood City on the neighborhood street enhancement. And Kimberly Overton will do the presentation. She's the assistant engineer for the City of Redwood City.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Overton, as I'm engineer working in transportation, and I came briefly to your working group about 6 months ago, I think. The public wasn't there so much, but you guys had talked a little bit about the Neighborhood Street Enhancement Program. It has now been approved by City Council, and prior to taking it to the county board for approval, since it's a project together, I want to tell you guys, because it impacts the North Fair Oaks community in really positive ways, a little bit about it. So it's going to be really short. So we also call it the Livable Neighborhood Streets Program. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the priority projects that have been picked and for this. So how do we get this to? Right button? Oh, there we go. Okay. So just as a reminder, what this program is, or for those of you who don't know, is part of Stanford's Precise Plan, the new Stanford office development in Redwood City. They donated benefit money to the community, particularly to the 3 communities that surround the campus. And one of those is North Fair Oaks. So North Fair Oaks, Friendly Acres, and Redwood Village. And so as part of that, that money is to create more livable streets in your community. And right now we have the first, it's 1.5 million, and right now we have the first 750,000. And then as the development moves forward, there'll be the additional phase 2, 750,000. So the purpose of this project is to, as it says, provide enhancement to neighborhoods potentially impacted by the new Stanford campus, one of those being the North Fair Oaks community, and to create more livable neighborhoods by means of traffic calming and beautification. So trying to do what we can to make North Fair Oaks a great community. And the map you can see, actually it doesn't show where Stanford is, but it's there between Redwood Village and Friendly Acres and up above North Fair Oaks, the new Stanford campus. So these are the 3 communities, neighborhoods that are possibly impacted, and just that Stanford wants to do something to help, and so has given us funding for that. So the funding is distributed evenly between the 3 communities. North Fair Oaks receives 1/3 of it. And so over the past year, since August, I think, no, since January 2017, we've been working with the communities to try to find how they would like to spend that funding. And so we ran, I don't know if I know some of you I recognize have been at some of those community meetings, but we had a first round in February of last year, where we kind of started to brainstorm ideas and concerns that the 3 communities had. So we had 1 in each of the 3 communities. We also had an online survey where we got input from residents. And actually, we also had some in the library of the surveys, in the Fair Oaks Library. Then we did a second round of community meetings where we got additional input on specific items that the communities would like to see. And then in August, we kind of had put that together and came up with some recommendations with the consultant that is working with the city. You can just see there, the big red is where Stanford is, and if you look, you see the different colors, and those are areas where priority items were chosen by the communities. And some of the example kind of items is one thing that people wanted was improvements around the schools, pedestrian crosswalk enhancements, flashing signs that make it easier for you to see pedestrians. That's the kind of thing. And so this is one at Fair Oaks Elementary School. Another item that community members were interested in is just by slowing down the traffic in various ways, traffic calming, so bulb outs, where you narrow the intersection so that the cars go slower and that the pedestrians have a shorter crossing distance, something that we're doing. This is another location, 8th and Bay, where we're going to be putting in a crosswalk and a flashing beacon there. So these are just the kinds of things that we're doing. Another example of bulb outs, that's Douglas Street, Douglas and Spring. This exists already. I'm sure everybody here has seen it. But this is just an example because public art was one of the things that North Fair Oaks was really interested in. I understand there's some artists here tonight. So there is funding as part of this for public art. And how that is going to be spent is sort of going to be up to Fair Oaks, and they're going to come to the city with how we do that. That hasn't totally been decided yet. So right now, this has been approved. The first recommendations, which, I have a list of all of them. They're also on our website. It's been approved by City Council and bringing it to you guys, and then we'll take it to the County Board of Supervisors for their approval, since the work within North Fair Oaks, obviously, the city pays for and will construct, but has to have the approval of the county. So then we expect to do some final designs in 2018 and do the construction in 2019, it's likely, and art, whatever it is. I have some more follow-ups, but I don't necessarily need to show them to you if you have any questions.
If you have any questions,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
through the chair. Hi, Kimberly.
Hello, hi, Linda.
So, phase one, can you go back to that? There we go. Design in 2018, construction 2019. So are you going to start phase two somewhere in between? What's going to be the timeline for the phase two?
You mean phase two funding?
Right.
That just depends on the build-out of Stanford. So
It
we-
could happen in 2018?
and as far as what the communities would like to do with the funding, we have a high priority improvements, which is where the funding that we already have is going to be spent. And then from the information we already collected, we have a medium priority improvements. And so we have already determined how the communities would like to spend the money.
Okay.
We just don't have it yet. So, yeah.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, so what's the answer? You're not really quite sure, huh, yet?
It depends on the build-out of Stanford.
Okay,
It's,
okay,
yeah.
all right. Okay, thank you,
So-
Kimberly. Thank
But
you.
we're going to be getting started in a big way.
Great. Great progress. It's been a while, but great progress. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to clarify, do any of these work need to be right at the border of Redwood City and North Fair Oaks, or it doesn't have to?
Yes. So for example, they don't have to be, but some of them are joint programs. So for example, 8th and Bay Street, Bay crosses both. So there are definitely some projects that are joint. Let me see, if you look at this right here, you can't probably read it, but you can see the colors. The green, the sort of aqua green, that is projects within North Fair Oaks. It's on 2 different pages. All that aqua green, but also the ones that are sort of a orangey yellow color, ochre, those are shared projects. So those are projects where 2 communities are sharing the funds because it's something like Bay Street where it crosses both. And so, yeah, and same thing for the medium priority projects, the ones that will be done as part of the second phase. The ochre color is the shared projects, and the green, the winter green is the North Fair Oaks. And all of this is on the website too, so if you want to look at the individual projects, if you go to which website, you will see that.
Any other
Any other
questions?
questions?
Yeah, about the website, she mentioned the information is in the website. Can you show us the website?
I'm sorry, yes.
Or should
It's www.redwoodcity.org/front/livable. And I have to say that I think it's supposed to be, but I don't think it says on the top that it's been approved yet. That should have been, it's in the process, but I'm not sure that part of the website has actually been updated, but it has been approved by City Council. So if you look at it tomorrow, you may not see that, but it has been approved.
Okay, thank you.
And
Any other questions from council members? Thanks very much for
Okay.
your time.
Okay, thanks.
And if there's any public comment about this item, I don't see any, so thank you. And next, we'll have a presentation on the 2018 Stanford General Use Permit application and the County of Santa Clara's draft environmental impact report, presented by Catherine Palter, who's the Associate Vice President for Land Use and Environmental Planning, and Lucy Weeks, Director of Government and Community Relations from Stanford University.
Hi, good evening. So Catherine Palter will not be here tonight. I'm sorry, she had a family emergency. So I am Lucy Wicks. I'm the Director of Community Relations at Stanford University, and I'll walk us through the presentation. So I know many of you, and many of you in the audience, from the work that we did in our Stanford Redwood City campus, but tonight I'm here to present our plans for our main campus, which is located in unincorporated Santa Clara County. So we have submitted an application to Santa Clara County, which is the governing body, to propose how we are going to be planning the future of our main campus. And so the application for Stanford Lands is in this area. You'll see in the map that the entire white area is also Stanford Lands. It's a contiguous amount of space of just over 8,000 acres of land. The application that we are seeking approval for at this time is within the green space there. So there's a two-part regulatory framework that we have with Santa Clara County. The first part is the Stanford Community Plan, which was established in the year 2000 and adopted by the Board of Supervisors. And this is really part of Santa Clara County's general plan, but it is focused specifically on Stanford lands within the county. And within this framework, there are planning strategies and policies directly for that main part of what we consider our core campus of Stanford. And so the community plan principles are really focused on compact urban development, conservation of natural resources, which I'll talk about. There's also the establishment of the academic growth boundary, which I will show you later on a map. And also that we have a very unique relationship in our growth here, that we have housing developed concurrent with academic space. The other part of this is a concept of what we call flexibility with accountability. So this plan in many ways gives the university some flexibility. Since we're projecting this plan out for about 17 years or so, it gives us some flexibility of where our growth would happen on campus, but it also has a lot of conditions that hold the university accountable to the community broadly as we develop over the years. So the other part of the policy for Stanford campus is a goal or a standard, what we consider our no net new commute trip standard, which I'll get into further as well. So the second part of the framework is what we are requesting now, which is a general use permit. The general use permit authorizes the actual development. So based on those the policies that are set within the community plan, the permit is the sort of the application to actually apply those. So we are currently operating under a general use permit that was given to the university in the year 2000, and we are at the tail end of that. So we are at the sort of the end of the allocation of growth that we have there. And under the 2000, the current general use permit, we were requesting just over 2 million square feet of space, about 4,000 housing units, over 4,000 housing units / beds, and also about 40,000 square feet of childcare community center. And with that request, there's also about over 100 conditions of approval that were there. So I want to step back a little bit and explain why the university is seeking this permit. First and foremost, Stanford is a residential university. We have been a residential university since our founding. When Leland and Jane Stanford established the university, it was a place where we had faculty and students living on campus together. So it's very much part of our history, and we're looking forward to continuing supporting housing both faculty, staff, and students within our campus. So under our 2018 general use permit, which is what we have applied for now, we're looking to increase and add over 3,150 housing units to our portfolio. The other part that is a key factor of our general use permit is really to be able to acknowledge the fact that the university is continuously generating new knowledge, and then the need that comes with that for space to be able to accommodate new research endeavors and such. So one thing I wanted to just mention is that the general use permit is not necessarily intended to specifically identify individual buildings that will be built over time and over the next 17 years, but rather it's to provide flexibility for the university to address opportunities that emerge over time and that can't be necessarily planned in advance. So often what I do is I look in the past to be able to explain what we can predict for the future. So under the current general use permit that we received in 2000, we were able to build a stem cell research facility, an interdisciplinary energy research building, an entirely new state-of-the-art energy system, also a performing arts center, and a new art center. And those were things that we did not yet know when we received those permits, but over the years we were able to accommodate those. And so this really represents that idea of being able to plan now for those and be able to accommodate those unforeseen opportunities that arrive in the future. But at the same time, while we're planning for the future, part of this general use permit is to really be able to acknowledge the fact that those individual buildings, as we do bring them online, still require some review. And there is, when we talk about that flexibility and accountability, the accountability part is that the university and the county of Santa Clara, on a yearly basis, do an annual report to make sure that the university is still completely within the direction that was set within the community plan and also the general use permit. So there's check-in points along the way. So for the 2018 development request that we have in right now, we are asking for 2.275 million square feet of academic and academic support space. And along with that, we're also, as I mentioned, asking for over 3,150 net new on-campus housing units. So you can see from this chart, it is broken up into different zones throughout the campus and development districts. We have what you'll see in the foothills area is we're not asking for any growth in this permit in the foothills. So when you're on 280 and Juniper Serra Boulevard, where you see many people are familiar with the Stanford Dish area, no growth is being proposed for that area at this time. So it's really concentrating on the core campus area, and you can see from this chart there's different spots for more of the academics uses, and then also the housing that we're going to be building, specifically in the East Campus area. Also in this permit request, we're asking for about 40,000 square feet net new of child care center facilities and other facilities that support our transportation demand management programs. So as I mentioned, there is no proposed development beyond the academic growth boundary. And we're requesting this permit, we're expecting it to last until about 2035. That's the timing horizon. So it's very similar to the timeline of a general plan that a community would do. So as I mentioned, one specific and unique part of our application and our general use permit is that we build housing on pace with academic facilities. And we think that this is quite unique. I think what we have here is a linkage here. So for every, about 500,000 square feet of academic space, we need to bring on board over 605 units, beds of housing. So that step-like fashion, so we can build academic space, build housing units, more academic space, build housing units. And so while we're requesting more, the ability to be able to build more than the 2753 housing units, that's the minimum amount of housing units that we can actually build under this permit. So besides building, we want to be able to build housing on campus. Some of this housing is considered affordable housing. So our graduate student apartments are designated by the County of Santa Clara as affordable housing units that they use to reach some of their regional housing allocation numbers, also referred to as RHNA. And so in our last permit, about 816 affordable units were considered to be built on Stanford's lands, and the credits for the RHNA numbers went to Santa Clara County. And we're about 900 units of graduate beds are anticipated to be built under this next allocation that we're requesting. So beyond building affordable units on campus, and subsidizing those. Part of our application here is to continue to provide funding into a Santa Clara County Affordable Housing Fund. So right now, we are the sole contributor to the county's Affordable Housing Fund, and we started this in the year 2000 with our last general use permit, and to this date, we've put in about $26 million into the Affordable Housing Fund. And if we continue to build out the rest of the permit that we have now, we're anticipating about another $11 million that will go into this fund. Moving forward with our new general use permit that we're asking for, we're projecting about an additional $56 million to affordable housing. The first two allocations of that funding was designed to be able to go to affordable housing projects within a 6-mile radius of the Stanford campus, the main campus. Linda, do you have a question?
Yeah, tell me, how many miles?
6 miles.
6 miles
Around,
around.
right, which does go into San Mateo County.
And through the chair, if I may, we've looked at that, and this area incorporates that 6 miles.
Really? We're 6 miles?
It is,
As the crow flies.
as a crow flies. Yeah, so it's a complete radius around. And Mike has been doing a wonderful job mapping that and making sure that he knows exactly where that 6-mile radius is. Yeah, so the funds go to Santa Clara County, and then they allocate them out. Another part that I mentioned is this idea of the net new commute trip, the no net new commute trip standard. So this standard was set in the year 2001, and the County of Santa Clara measures our commute trips daily. So they actually do rubber tube counters across 16 cordons around the main campus, and they measure the amount of trips coming and going to campus during that time. Those counts happen twice a year, and they have set a threshold that we agreed to in the year 2000, and the university has been able to keep those commute trips underneath that threshold. And we are offering to continue to keep that threshold in place as we move forward for the next 2018 general use permit. And what you'll see here is 2 charts. One is the threshold on top. I'm sorry, this is impossible to see. The bottom chart shows our drive alone rate, so often referred to as a single occupancy vehicle rate or an SOV rate. The SOV rate, the single occupancy vehicle rate, was around 72%. That's sort of the average for Santa Clara County. The university has implemented many aggressive transportation demand management programs, and we've been able to drop that single occupancy vehicle rate down to under 50%, and I'll get to that in a moment. So that means under 50% of our people are arriving in a single occupancy car. The way we do this and the way that we continue to meet this standard measurement here is we've been able to bring on several programs throughout the years. We're very fortunate in the beginning of when we started our programs that we started charging our employees for parking on campus, which is a very effective tool to encourage people to get out of their cars when you have to pay to park at the end of your commute trip. That's one example. We have a carpool program that started in the 80s. We also provide a free Caltrain Go Pass to all of our employees at the university. And so that has really been able to be a great incentive to get people to move on to the public transit system. And hopefully many of you have seen the Marguerite shuttle bus. That's our last mile connection there. It's a free shuttle bus open to the community. It's really targeted to help that last mile. So people that come from the train or are from different destinations within the transit village to be able to, in the sort of the Palo Alto Caltrain station, to be able to use that Marguerite shuttle to make it onto campus. So the no net new commute trip standard, we're going to be keeping that moving forward. And we have an award-winning program for TDM, and I think a lot of people are asking, what else can you do since you already have brought that drive alone rate down to a very low level? We are now doing a lot with surveying our employees, so we know a lot about understanding our commuters, targeting different programs that really will take all of those excuses away. A great example of that is a lot of people say, I don't really want to use public transportation because what happens if I get that call in the middle of the day that my child is sick or I have an emergency and I need to get home? So we have an emergency ride home program that's part of our, so you can rent a car or you can take Uber and things like that to get home if you need to, or to where you need to have, meet a loved one. We also have a lot of ways to predict success. So before we put in our application, we did a lot of research of figuring out all the different programs that we could continue to put into play here to get those commuters off of the streets. So Santa Clara County, as we put our application in a few years ago, and it kicked off the environmental review process of this. And so required by the California Environmental Quality Act, there is an environmental impact report that has been put together by Santa Clara County. And so this is a way to inform the public about the project and the environmental impacts of the physical environment. So it also is part of the report is to also assign mitigation if there are significant impacts, and to identify project alternatives that reduce those. So we did a lot of studying internally before we put our application in, and so we really wanted to be sensitive to making sure that when we put our application in, we really did understand the impacts of this infill growth on campus. So here is the different areas of the EIR that were studied. There was over 80 potential environmental impacts. 47 of them were determined to be less than significant out of the gate. 29, there's less significant after mitigation, so there's something that the university can do to reduce those impacts down. And 4 of them determined to be significant and unavoidable. These are technical terms within the CEQA process. The 4 that were considered significant and unavoidable is cultural resources, noise and vibration, and transportation. So for cultural resources, there is a potential that over the next 17 years, we do have some historic buildings on campus. It's not our intention to tear those down, but if for some reason we do need to, that would then be a significant unavoidable impact. Noise and vibration, the university, because of the construction, this is on a temporary basis, there will be noise and vibration to sensitive receptors. And then also the traffic congestion. So the county, while the university has committed to keeping that no net new commute trip standard, meaning we're not going to be increasing our commute trips, the county still needed to conservatively analyze the impacts of what the growth would be. And so that's why you're seeing this. But in many ways, we've made the commitment to say we will not be impacting that aspect of it. So here we are in the process. This is the general use process. As I mentioned, we did a lot of work before we actually applied. So starting in June of 2016, we held a series of community open houses across both counties. We turned in an application in November of 2016. We continued to gather a lot of community feedback with the County of Santa Clara putting their notice of preparation of the environmental impact report. And so they received lots of community feedback all the way through February of 2017. And we had, usually an environmental impact report has about a 60-day review. The review that Santa Clara County chose for us is 120 days of review. And so that just ended on February 2nd, the comment period. San Mateo County did submit a letter on the behalf of San Mateo County, along with many other jurisdiction and interested stakeholders. So now we're at this phase of the draft county, the draft county report came out, environmental impact report in October, and now we're moving towards the process of the final impact report, which the County of Santa Clara will be issuing later this year. And then we move towards more hearings at the Planning Commission of Santa Clara County, and ultimately this will be a vote of the board of San Mateo County. So with that, I am happy to entertain any questions.
Do council members have any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. So of the estimated 56 million contribution to affordable housing, do we know yet what portion would be coming to San Mateo County?
We do not.
We do not. And at what point,
Yeah.
when is that analysis done, or at what point would we have more information on that?
That is under discussion right now with Santa Clara County, and I think your leadership in San Mateo County has had lots of input to that process, and that was one of the comments that came out during the review period.
If I may, through the chair, yes. In our response to the environmental impact report, we officially asked for a portion of that money, and requested that that money be split between Santa Clara County and San Mateo County.
Okay. And Lucy, are there any other advantages coming to the surrounding region besides the affordable housing?
So part of, I think it's a very broad question. So
Or
I think
contributions, rather?
Yeah. So a lot of, I would say there are many ongoing community contributions from the university as a whole. We have a very open campus, so there's a sort of cultural aspect there, and we have a lot of robust partnerships between the academy, the operations of the university, and the surrounding communities. Particularly to the general use permit, I gave you all our transportation strategy document there. I'm sorry I didn't bring enough copies. This is also on the website. It looks
Right.
like this. In the back of that, you'll see some transportation projects, and one of them is in San Mateo County. So we're looking to make sure that we partner with the jurisdictions surrounding us and hopefully unlock some transportation projects there as well.
Okay, but I specifically, I was thinking more in terms of, as a result of this new plan,
Yeah.
aside from the affordable housing bucket, is there anything else? But
So
I mean,
the transportation
I want
projects
to know
are.
what's going to be the positive impact for our community.
Yeah, so beyond the transportation projects, which are on page 25 of that, which is one of that, we also we're contributing to some park fund. It's actually not in San Mateo County, but there's a park right next to the main campus that we're contributing some funding to as well, a neighborhood park. And that's a lot of this is the discussion right now that we're undergoing, is to really understand some of that other commentary about benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
Great.
very much for your time.
Thank you.
Lucy. Next, we will have the presentation of artist submissions for the Middlefield Road mural project, and we will start with the presentation mural submission by Arthur Koch.
Hi, I'm Arthur Koch. I brought an example of a mural I painted for my neighborhood in San Francisco. And similar to the one that I ran for Fair House. And then it's about the past, present, the future of the neighborhood, and the cultural diversity.
It's not going to work.
Anyway, I think we got a picture here. So, thank you. So this is about the neighborhood I lived in San Francisco, the Portola, for the last 33 years. I was born in Miami, Florida, and I studied with an artist in Spain and traveled around Europe for 2 years. And then with that portfolio, got a scholarship to study painting and photography, earning a BFA in painting photography at Columbia University. And then I moved to San Francisco about 33 years ago, and one of my first jobs was working for a video game company in Redwood Shores called Epix, and used to come over here and eat lunch. I also worked for Electronic Arts for 12 years in Redwood Shores. Would come over here and jog at lunch break. And then more recently, I went back again in 2005, and then more recently, I worked for the Foundry here in Redwood City. So I've always liked Redwood City. It was a warm respite from cold San Francisco, and so I got to know it over the years. Although most of my career was as a digital artist, I always painted and drew and took photography on the side just to keep my passion alive about traditional art. I also taught for 4 years at 2 colleges in the Bay Area, bridging the gap between traditional art and digital art. So what really attracted me about this Fair Oaks mural is to explore the history and culture of the neighborhood, to acknowledge the Ohlone Indians on the right who were here first, and then the first settlers that planted lots of trees and produce. I've got a horse and buggy in the back there to symbolize older ways of transportation, and then that's contrasted by the lowrider in the Carnival parade for the modern days ways of transportation. I've always been fascinated with Carnival and Dia de Muertos. I photographed all those processions in San Francisco, even went to Oaxaca, Mexico, and Dia de Muertos in Peru, and noticed all the various cultural variations of that. I put that apple tree in there because when I was exploring the neighborhood, I interviewed an older lady, and she said she remembered lots of apple trees. And so I just wanted to give a nod to the agricultural past to this area, which has transitioned into an urban area and has since become predominantly Latino. I thought those 4 storefronts kind of were signature storefronts for the neighborhood. I like those colors, the diverse businesses. And then I feel like I went full circle from the Ohlone Indians on the right to a Native American carnival dancer on the left, which kind of represents the future of the neighborhood. I painted my first mural in college, and then a couple of years ago I volunteered for Precita Eyes to paint the mural in front of the New Mexican Museum in San Francisco. And that was a great learning experience to see how they work, the way they work collaboratively. They have a community day on the weekends where they invite anybody and everybody to come and paint. And then they have a couple of core artists that manage the whole process. And then Susan Cervantes has headed that organization for 40 years now. And then I recently just took a course of theirs on how to paint a community mural collaboratively. So I would welcome volunteers to help me paint this. I plan to paint this one all by myself. Luckily, a friend of mine who was a really good painter helped me out the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks. And then about 15 people from the neighborhood who were just walking by volunteered to help out. And it worked out great. It gave everybody a sense of ownership. I mean, the worst thing that happened is every once in a while I might have to paint over something. It's always better to have 2 coats of paint. And then people inserted some of their own culture in there. My neighborhood has gone from being predominantly Latino to Chinese, and so some of the Chinese people inserted some Chinese characters in this mural to talk about the neighborhood. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Koch. So what you're showing us on the screen is your proposed art piece?
Yeah, that's my concept.
Okay.
And the concept being that you're going from the past to the future. Mm-hmm. You've got the mountains and the redwoods in the background that are throughout the mural. They've always been here, and you can still look at. Then you've got the Dia de Muertos skull and Dia de Muertos processions combined with the Carnival procession. And when I was talking to some of the locals, I said I was really excited about Carnival and Dia de Muertos because I've been photographing them for years. And they said that they used to have a Carnival procession here in Fair Oaks, but it was shut down by the fire department. So I wanted to just kind of keep that memory alive. I think it's a characteristic trademark of the Latin community, Carnival and Dia de Muertos. And I just was trying to represent the diversity of the community and how it's changed over the years. Does anybody else have some questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes.
Oh, the chair's gonna open to public
Yes, sir.
comment when we're,
We'll
we're
have
done here.
questions first.
Do you want me
for
to just keep
For the
talking?
council
No, we're gonna have
members.
questions.
We'll have questions for the council members, and then we'll go on with questions from the public.
Okay.
so The one thing that kind of stood out that it didn't, I don't know how to say this. What's the meaning of the Asian flag, the banners? The young lady you have right there. And I'm asking because it doesn't fit with our history here. There was a large Vietnamese community in North Fair Oaks for many years, and then that community traveled to Santa Clara County, and they formed what's in Santa Clara County now. And there's also history of the Japanese community that developed all the flower manufacturing in Redwood City. They had factories and all of that. I just didn't understand that the Asian young lady, it just doesn't fit for me in your picture of history. That was my question.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, I was trying to acknowledge that there is an Asian element to the past and the present here. I mean, she's dancing in front of a Vietnamese restaurant there. If it's too specifically Chinese, I could certainly make it more specifically Vietnamese or Japanese. But when I was researching, the past and driving around the present, I noticed that there was an Asian element to the community, and I read about the Japanese gardeners and the Vietnamese immigrants, and I noticed it very often in the carnival processions in San Francisco that lots of times there are some Asian floats. It's not exclusively a Latino event, especially Carnival in San Francisco, because it represents carnivals from all over the world. And right now there's a Chinese New Year parade going on, but it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to see an Asian contingent in Carnival.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council members?
It's a beautiful art
Thank you.
piece, and you did a research, and you did it really well.
Thank
and
you.
It does represent our community, North Fair Oaks, and it's beautiful. And then as for the Asian girl dancing in the middle, just my opinion, Linda, is that growing up here in North Fair Oaks, going to the 4th of July parade and going to the North Fair Oaks festivals, I did see stuff like that growing up. So it is a little bit out of place, but it's still, the memories are still there with me, and that does resonate with me. So I just want to say good job. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Rosaura, do you have a question?
Yeah, I know something that I see here is about a lot of Dia de los Muertos. I think we celebrate more, we have more activities we do here as a culture. I don't know, because for me it's a lot of Dia de los Muertos things here in this picture. But it's of course, it's a nice picture, but I think as a Latino community, especially here in North Fair Oaks, like Marie mentioned, we do different activities and different things, because you said it's coming from the past to the future.
Present and future, yeah.
So the present. And in these days, I think we have more activities during the year.
More than just Dia de Muertos is what you're saying?
More than Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, I wondered how much to emphasize that, but I mean, these are actually carnival dancers in the front here. Although that skull is right in your face. But, these are things that can be adjusted. I heard that there still is a Dia de Muertos procession in Redwood City. What else would you like to see represented?
Maybe to have something like some message that's motivate us, to motivate the community when they see it, they feel identified as in the picture.
A message in terms of text or symbolism, or
Yeah.
what kind of message would you like?
Yeah, and because I know this is not yours maybe, but here it says Redwood City and Camino. It has different, how do you use
No, so
message?
those are different artists, Rosaura.
Different artists, right?
His is only the
Okay,
top front.
okay.
If I could, through the chair.
Of course.
So the purpose of this today is to really kind of take a look at the three finalists and try to make a recommendation on which artists you feel would most likely capture the history of North Fair Oaks based on what they've presented. Once we, enter into or develop a finalist and make an offer and sit down, we can work through a lot of the details of what are the things we should be added or how it should be set up. We could look at different sketches and certainly bring that back to the council at that time to make sure that we have something that's certainly representative of everyone's thoughts.
Thanks very much. I wonder if in that case we could actually get the two presentations, one after the other one.
I think that's a
and
good
then
idea.
save the questions and comments all the way to the end.
I think that's a very good idea.
Okay, let's do that then. Thank you very much, Mr. Koch. So we may have more questions for you at the end.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to say that the current mural I'm working on went through some revisions, so I'm open to making changes to, fine-tune it to the satisfaction of the community.
Understood, yeah. And
Okay.
most of us who have worked through previous artworks and murals have gone through the process, and we understand that many times the very first proposal doesn't quite fit. So usually there's a back and forth,
Yeah.
with a few changes suggested. So yeah, by all means. But thanks very much, and
All right, thank you.
your work is great. Thanks. So next we'll have the presentation of the mural submission by Jose Castro.
Good evening, buenas noches. My name is Jose Castro. I go by the last name of Castro. There's too many Jose's in this world, so try to be a little different there. So just start off with a little history of myself. I grew up here in North Fair Oaks District, literally 5 blocks away. 690 Hurlingame is my address. I went to school here down where Summit's at. It used to be called High Tech High. It was a charter school. Started there. It got shut down, unfortunately, for my 2 years, so I went to Manly Atherton. So I grew a little bit about the neighborhood and the nature just around it itself. Growing up here in North Fair Oaks, I've seen everything from change to future, technology, new buildings, inspiration, just anything you can just throw at a kid when he sees just new buildings coming up every other weekend, I guess, if you will. With that said, up to this day, if I don't make it as an artist, to have an opportunity like this, to have my mural just up on a wall so people could see, is just a blessing in itself for an artist who has, tried to apply for murals, utility boxes around my city and, get denied, but still keep going and have hope for the future. So with that said, I'll go into my mural here, and I'm sorry about the quality, but hopefully you guys can go along with me and read what I'm trying to show and say. Here on the left side is the historical agriculture kind of view perspective of Redwood City. Our main port being that as popular it is today, but just in other ways here in North Fair Oaks, which I'll describe a little bit on the right-hand side, but just the port being the most popular one in the early days of Redwood City. Farming, I have the Cesar Chavez flag. Obviously, United Farm Workers Association is a very big input into any of the agriculture subject. But with that said, you have a bunch of redwood trees. In the front, there's a little heart with the corn, just kind of representing the sort of produce and other elements that were provided to the people. You have a small neighborhood just above on the left-hand side of the Virgin Mary, just representing how much of a small town we were to, what we're kind of becoming now. In the middle here, I want a Virgin Mary because Virgen de Guadalupe in a Latino housing is sort of like a safe symbol icon, mago, if you will. It represents hope, it represents peace, it represents, just a family in general, and it's a safe place for anybody, nonetheless myself, growing up and, having to struggle with the, different things I had to go through. She was always just a picture of, just a message to me to kind of keep going forward. With that said, I plan that to be the main focal point of my mural, where anybody can just drive by and just remember that there's, the sun comes out tomorrow, and there's always time for, change, and everything needs to be worked towards for, nonetheless, believed in. So the fruit bowl at the bottom just kind of symbolizes, a healthy way of living, whether it's your internal self, your family, or whatever's important to you, what you're going towards for. I move over to the right, where you'll see just a bunch of little props from El Camino sign to the Redwood City sign that does read at the bottom, that does say the best climate in California, I believe. With that said, you have the courthouse, 1910 build. You have other little props in the back, and new kind of buildings just springing up. As we all know, North Fair Oaks is just sort of being that one kind of like place where a bunch of businesses, including Facebook and others, kind of high class buildings are kind of coming to just incorporate themselves into our neighborhoods. And I do want to say that's a positive impact for a bunch of families. It does bring, gentrification and kind of negative ways of living and stuff for a bunch of our families, but it's a positive outlook for the community. Nonetheless, it brings jobs. It brings other just opportunities for others just kind of like to move forward. Stanford Hospital in the middle. You have the school with the book and a pencil representing education being the #1 just important impact in anybody just growing up. You do have the Mexican-American flags representing where we're from, where we're living. And the two bridges in the back, I try to represent the San Mateo and the Marsh 84 bridge. Just like I said earlier, with the imports of wood and being the main port, up to today, those two kind of interact and come here to the Redwood City as sort of like the main platform where we still distribute, help, jobs, and other cultural impacts in the household. So with that said, you do have like the sun rising in the back to just keep it bright, keep it moving. The sun comes out tomorrow, and to just believe and have hope. Golden Gate in the back, and I guess you could consider like the right top, like San Jose, Gilroy Mountains, all those kind of areas. Nonetheless, the mountains in 280. But with that said, what I want to end this kind of like spiel here with my mural is just saying that like this is where I grew up. This is where I'm from. And if someone like myself can grow up and do art his whole life, and I have an A in the Academy of Art, it's great to know, but to just have an opportunity like this where I grew up 5 blocks away and impact just different ways of life for like the young, nonetheless like a young person who's fatherless, or a mom with 2 kids, because that's where we come from. I mean, it's just an impact in itself that means a lot to just someone like myself. But with that said, thank you, and I'll take any questions. Or we're gonna move forward, right?
Yeah, we'll wait on the questions until the end of the next presentation. But
Cool.
Thank you very much for your submission. Great
Thank
work.
you. And with that said, I do want to thank everybody who showed up tonight, a bunch of my friends and family. I haven't gotten to speak to y'all, but thank you so much. Mom, I love you so much. Thank you.
Now we'll have the presentation of a mural submission by Ángel Tejeda.
Well, I'm just gonna keep this short. My name is Ángel Tejeda. I live in San Carlos, and basically I've been drawing since I was a little kid. I'm a self-taught artist, so I have a 15-year experience doing oil paintings and acrylics. And I have done some public works in San Carlos and Redwood City, which I think that's, for me, that's one of the best experience that I had doing art, because it amazes me how many people you get to know when you work in doing public art. So the mural is titled "A New Dawn: Our Roots and Tonantzin, Our Mother." That said in Spanish will be "Un nuevo amanecer, nuestras raíces y Tonantzin, nuestra madre." With this mural, I try to capture a moment in time when our cultures fuse together. The mural represents our origins, our beliefs, and a mixture of two cultures, Spanish and Aztec. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put like two descriptions, one in English and one in Spanish at the bottom, both sides, and it will read the following. Never forget where you come from. Never forget your roots. Learn your history and be open to other cultures, because this can only make you stronger and a better human being. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Great work.
Well, thank you.
And so now let's proceed with questions, first by council members to any of the artists, including the first one, if you still have a question.
So they're all such beautiful pieces of work, and you guys should all be proud of yourselves for just how wonderful it came out. So for Jose Castro, you didn't have to do your research like Arthur did. You lived it, so it wasn't necessary. So everything that you drew there came from your heart, and you can see it there. And just one thing for your mural is, and for all murals, it would just be nice to see that maybe just different flags from different countries or different just nationalities, because yes, we are a huge population of Latinos, but we also see Pacific Islanders and we see others too. And I wouldn't want to see a mural and just see that not even one little piece represents a little bit of me, who I am and who where I came from if I wasn't Latino. So just to have everyone included, that would be nice. That would be for everyone. For the last one, it's very simple, but it's beautiful, and I love what the text is gonna say. To be true, don't forget who you are, be true to yourself, that kind of stuff. It's a good message for everyone, and it's a good message for us here, because yeah. Yeah.
Actually, if we can have the three artists up to the mic and answer, when appropriately, that would be great. Just so that it gets, in the microphone and it gets recorded, because people watching the video eventually they will not have any sound. So if you can repeat your answer, please.
Yeah, I think what you said, we tend to forget. I've seen a lot of people that forget what they don't really care about their heritage, They don't care about learning about it. So I think that putting that message, for me, at least for me, I think that'll be a good message, not only for our Hispanic heritage, but for anybody. That could apply to anybody.
So just good job to all three of you guys.
Chair Rodriguez, may I just point out, there's potentially a legal issue that we're going to research on Mr. Koch's, and that's the, I'm sorry, Mr. Castro, and that's the symbol, a religious symbol in it, and we would like to, we're going to research that to make sure that that is appropriate and allowed. with the use of public funds. So we will get back to you on that.
Okay. But does that mean then that we shouldn't get any of the options tonight?
No, you can certainly.
Because, for example, what if everybody were to choose that particular one?
We would have to just refine it to, if the law indicated that we were not able to have any of those type of symbols in.
Also, only
then
that symbol
we would have to just
could
change
be
that.
removed.
Yeah.
I see.
I just wanted to give you a heads up on
All
it,
right,
that's all.
yeah, good point, thank you.
If the symbol is, if the symbol characterizes a culture, which it does, and in this particular piece, it's the centerpiece, but it's about representing culture. So that's a very fine line. So at what point are you going to let us know? Melissa, this is for Melissa.
Yes, as soon as Melissa makes the
This is
determination.
a Melissa question.
Well, Councilmember Lopez, I think you put it correctly. I think it's a very fine line, and there's, cultural representation versus religious representation, and
Right.
so we'll have to take a close look at it. And of course, I'll be seeing you next month, so.
Right. It represents culture. It's not converting to a religion.
Understood.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Jose, that's my opinion.
No,
You're the artist, but that's my opinion.
No, that I was going to go towards that, but thank you. Yeah, I'll go with those responses. Thank you.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Yesenia.
For Jose Castro, I don't know if you could go back. Oh, yeah, perfect. On the left, are like the church. What is that? That's supposed to be like Sequoia, or is that like, I don't know what that is.
No, it's not Sequoia necessarily, but it is just sort of given like just a past, just a past outlook on, exterior sort of design back then. It is sort of like simplified, but
Because it
kind of
just, it reminded me of Aguililla, and that's like a big part of North Fair Oaks.
yeah, exactly, being
Yeah,
Little
so,
Mexico
like,
always.
yeah,
So that's
exactly
kind of
what it reminded me of. So I thought that
exactamente, yeah. So that's sort of the vibe I was trying to go for. Just exactly what it is today. Just
and another question: what do the daisies have to do with North Fair Oaks? And,
the daisies.
yeah.
To be quite honest with you, I wanted that to be kind of, especially at the bottom, if people want to like take pictures or something, I wanted it to be just another bright outlook on the mural. Flowers representing, beauty itself, and that's just what you see in the North Fair Oaks culture. If you just walk downtown Redwood City, if you're walking around Little Mexico, it might not look like your high-end, place to be, but to be honest with you, there's culture. In the food, there's culture in the community. Nonetheless, just the conversations. Just stop by and talk to somebody. You'll see that we're here with open arms.
Cool. Thank you.
Go ahead, Beatrice.
As I look at these three murals, one thing I'd like to see more is La Familia. To me, La Familia is very central to me, to my culture, to the vision of school and work, especially here in North Fair Oaks. I'd like to see that played up in all of the murals, whether other children, where's the abuelitos, where's, that vision that we see when we just walk around our neighborhoods. That's what I want to see more of the murals.
Beatriz, to give a comment on what you just said, I'm just glad you said that. The Miss and the Sir over here, I don't know you guys' names, but that's what that symbol represents. La Virgen de Guadalupe, family, your past. In a Latino home, that is the iconic symbol to anyone to just like think about what you really have. And that's the main importance just in the symbol itself. There should be no explanation. So with that said, Beatriz, the Virgen de Guadalupe represents that in just our own ways.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you can each tell us what experience you have with murals specifically. And if you don't have any experience, how you are planning to accomplish a mural.
Well, for me, I have done a few utility boxes on San Carlos and Redwood City. So that's basically my main experience doing like public work.
This will be the very first mural that I would ever get to paint. As I said, I have applied for other opportunities around the neighborhood, Redwood City in general. So this will be the first mural I paint. I have worked in big canvases, 30 by 40s, 24 by 36s. So this would be the first opportunity I get, but nonetheless, in my own neighborhood.
So I've painted 3 murals and I'm the process of painting on a 4th mural. And then, as I said before, I volunteered with Precita Eyes to help paint the mural in front of the New Mexican Museum on Mission Street. Although I can't really, claim credit for that. I learned a lot about the process of painting murals and saw the value of involving the community as well. And I'm going to need some help if there are volunteers. So mostly it's about learning about what's going to read at a large scale. When I tried to pick colors out for my wall, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. You see a little color on a small swatch, and then you put that all on the wall, and you're going, whoa, that's way too much. So there's a lot of you have to think about what's going to really read at a large scale and try to simplify things. And in some ways, sometimes I think I make things too complicated, but I tried to create a composition that held together and isn't too busy and would read well at a distance.
Go ahead.
Hi. So Arthur, you've mentioned it several times about having people work with you. Angel and Jose, are you open to having students, whoever's interested, help you or work side by side with you?
Yes, I already got that down the line. Schools, people, whoever walks around.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I have no problems with that. Even them, they can help me out.
Okay.
If it might get chosen, if that's,
Thank you.
that's
Thank
the
you.
case. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And we have some public comment that we're going to try to rush, kind of, because it is a lot, and it's already 8:30, and we still have a few other issues to run through. So I'm going to ask you to stand in line. So first I'm going to name the person who's going to speak, and then I'm going to say the second name. So if you can, stand up and be ready. You only get 2 minutes, and we have to be really strict this time. And actually,
Well, let's just get started. Yeah. No, let's just get started, maybe 2 minutes.
okay.
There's a lot of comments. Hay mucha gente que quiere hablar ahorita. Hay los comments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut it down to 1 minute, if you can be really brief, because it's a lot of comments. So Anna Wright. And the next will be, I'm sorry, but Spira?
Maybe you call 5 names and they can start lining up.
And next, Lalo Saavedra. Next, Alejandro Escobar. Go ahead, Anna. Thank you.
My name is Anna Wright. I'm a Redwood City artist myself. If that gives me any kind of credibility. I've had several opportunities to work with Mr. Castro on art projects. And his piece is a beautiful concept, but I know that his talent is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. What you will see when he produces this mural is going to be amazing. And I have all the confidence in him. I just want to say he's also an upstanding citizen of Redwood City and cares a lot about this community and is no stranger to these meetings. I'm in favor of this mural because it speaks to the community no matter where you come from. If I left everything and went to another country to start over, the only tie I would have to my community is Starbucks. You know, let's be honest. How many people know that the Costco right here actually used to be an orchard, and there was a little taco truck there that was El Griense? This mural reflects the orchards that used to be right here and speaks of a community that is rich in cultural history. No matter the high cost of living, gentrification, or political agendas, this mural will be a reminder of this community's deep-rooted cultural history and an inspiration to all, no matter where you are or where your ancestors immigrated from. Thank you, and best of luck to all the artists here tonight.
Next, Spira, you saw how quick 1 minute goes by.
Oh, yeah, I saw how quick it was. How's it going? My name's James Espita, or Edwin, but I'm an artist. Came here to support Castro. I've been living in North Fair Oaks for 25 plus years. This is where I grew up. This is my roots. When I picture someone painting a picture of where we came from and where we grew up, all I can think of is Castro. This is a great representation of what it is, our roots, and I think it's really powerful, inspirational, and it's something that I think the future, especially of the newcomers, need to see. So let's go, Castro.
Thanks very much. Mr. Lalo Saavedra.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lalo. I've lived here my whole life, and when I look at this proposal for the mural, I see my life in it. I grew up here, and like you mentioned earlier, Ms. Linda Lopez, this is more of a symbol that captures a culture. And when I see this, the first thing I see is the Virgin Mary. And what I think of is waking up on December 12th at like 4 in the morning to march down Middlefield to go down to the church and eat tamales and eat atole and champurrado and just enjoy the festivities that happen on that day. I think of the festival we used to have on Middlefield for the Queen of Redwood City when they used to give scholarships for young girls in the community to be able to go to college. I see the growth from left to right, and it's not just my life that I see everybody's life in this community and where we come from, not to forget that, and the new opportunities that have grown with the city's growth.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Alejandra Escobar, and after that, we'll get Joshua Gomez, Marlene Castro, and David Melina. Sorry.
My name is Alejandra, and I met Castro when I was a freshman in MA, and I didn't grow up here in North Fair Oaks, but I did grow up running around the streets, and his mural does bring a lot of memories because his art is just like the other ones that you see down the streets here. And it'll just be really good for him to just draw this because he's from here, he knows this place, and I know it would mean a lot to him to draw something here just because he is from here, and I know that a lot of hard work would be put into this, and just a lot of passion would go into this. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Alejandra. Next, Joshua Gomez. And if Marlene Castro and David Melina and Ricky Matus can stand and be ready, that'd be great. Okay, so then we'll get Marlene Castro, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Marlene Castro. You'll hear a very biased opinion about my little brother Castro and his mural submission tonight. And as you can tell, our local community showed up to support this young local artist. As an educator for the past 7 years, when I think about this mural, I think about showing this to my students. In every capacity that I've worked in with students, I've thought about my commitment being to cultivating their passion. And that includes whether you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or the more non-traditional things we don't talk about often, which is the arts, and that get taken away from our communities, especially in urban school settings. And so when I think about my brother growing up and getting teary, is the fact that he committed to his craft, no matter what. And the fact that I could walk down Middlefield with a classroom of students to show them that you could pursue your dream and actually have it come to life on a street corner where we really need this beauty would be amazing. And I think that he is definitely open to refining this piece with you. He is not done. He's someone who takes ideas and takes feedback. And so I understand the legal issue around the Virgin Mary, but being open to taking a chance on this local artist and that art piece would be amazing. So I really hope you consider him. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My name is David Melena. I'm an assistant undergraduate director. I'm an assistant director of undergraduate admissions at UC Berkeley, and Castro is my brother-in-law. So as a transplant here to the North Fair Oaks area, I've seen it change and evolve so very much, very rapid time. So I think his art would be very pivotal to the representation of the young people here, young and old, right? Because it means a lot to a lot of people, as you can see the community support. So I think it definitely, I believe it'll be important because it'll bring people together. It'll allow people to visualize their dreams and realize that as much as we focus on STEM and as all the organizations coming to this community are great, we need to also invest in the arts. And this council can take a stand by investing in local artists, and I think that'll be very important. Lastly, I find it, honestly, I'm very proud to stand up here because at this moment in time, young people are using their voice to enact change and using their gifts and talents and efforts to enact change and the change that they want to see. And all I see is a young man using his gifts to empower his community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melena.
My name is Ricky Mattis. I'm a union electrician here in San Mateo County, so this community is very important to me. So Castro, he's my friend. I've known him a good while. He lives and breathes art, but really that's not what makes him deserving of this piece. What makes him deserving is his respect and admiration for the community and how he's not afraid to incorporate it into his work. He represents both modern and old culture through his work, leaving us something to think back about, leaving us something to think forward to. What really stood out to me recently, actually, when I saw it up here, was that red flag he has right by the houses. And if a lot of you don't know that flag, it represents the United Farm Workers Union. And so that kind of shows to me, while you have on the right, you have all the gentrification, you have the emojis that represents, the up-and-coming tech business, which is great. But it also shows that, the common worker isn't forgotten about. The common worker is always thought about in the process also. You have the balance of both. New handle.
Thanks very much. Next, we'll get Ana Vendaño, then Emily Tapia, then Brenda Solorio, and then Ana Ramirez. Gael.
Good evening, council members. My name is Ana Vendaño, and I'm here representing, as a resident of North Fair Oaks, but also as a member of the Enfoque project. Enfoque is a local coalition of media makers here in North Fair Oaks, and we stand behind Jose Castro as a local artist. This would be an amazing opportunity for someone from the community, someone that's local, someone that knows our history, that has lived the history, to really represent all of the rest of the artists and the rest of us young people that live in Redwood City, North Fair Oaks, and we just stand behind him, and I want to show my support for him. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Go ahead, Emily.
Good evening. I'm Brenda Solorio. I'm Castro's little cousin, and growing up, I always remember him carrying a notebook, always drawing, and it's a great opportunity for him. We're all super proud of him to come and be able to draw this, paint this, and just good luck.
Thanks very much. either Emily or Ana Ramirez.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Ana Ramírez Gaeta y soy la mamá del artista aquí. Estoy muy orgullosa de hablar de él. Llegamos aquí a Redwood City en 1997 y han crecido aquí los dos en esta comunidad, al igual que yo. Y estoy muy orgullosa de ser la madre de mis dos talentosos hijos y espero que le den la oportunidad, que él siempre ha perseguido ese sueño de que quiere hacer un mural y quiere seguir con su arte y espero que lo va a lograr. Y un comentario solamente para la señora Beatriz Cerrillo, perdón. Como le dijo mi hijo, bueno, mucha gente por la Virgen de Guadalupe nos representamos. Mis hijos conocieron el significado de la Virgen de Guadalupe debido a sus abuelitos. Entonces, yo creo que todos los jóvenes que están aquí es el significado, porque como dijo el otro jovencito también, los papás, abuelitos, todos venimos el 12 de diciembre a reunirnos a la comunidad. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, señora. Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Tapia, and I'm here to support Jose Castro because my family likes to look at utility boxes, and I want to see a mural that someone made that looks like me, because maybe in the future I can do the same, because I can look back and say anything is possible.
Thank you. Next, we'll get Rafael Avendaño, then Diego Medrano, then Jasmine Martinez, then Anthony Gonzalez, and then Cody Laurie?
Cody Louie.
Cody Louie.
As a community leader, organizer, and educator, I am here because I care about North Fair Oaks. I am here because I breathe the community. I am the director of the nonprofit, the Siena Youth Center, and I am here because I also support local artists. Furthermore, I support this mural by Jose Castro. This mural is the heartbeat of NFO native. It breathes NFO. It's part of the blood. It's part of our veins. This mural speaks with the knowledge of the Redwoods. Jose Castro is a homegrown talent, and these are the moments that we as leaders hope to see from young people. These are the moments. The capital, that artistic capital that Jose Castro brings is transcribed by this powerful piece. When I ride my bike in my community with my Bulldog Riders, say what's up, y'all. I want to take them to a mural that's going to go into the history, that's going to go into the Redwoods, that's going to go into the movements, that's going to go into the families, that's going to go into the community, that's going to go into the changes. And I want to one day ride my bike with my son and daughter and tell them about the history. And I want to tell them about the local artist who painted this, Jose Castro.
Thanks very much. Diego Medrano, go ahead.
My name is Diego Medrano, and I am here to support Jose Castro because I've always wanted to go out in the community when I'm older to see back at the art that he has been making for us to remember who we are and where we've been living since we're little kids.
Thanks very much, Diego. Jasmine?
Hi, my name is Jasmine Martinez. I'm here to support Castro. You probably don't even know who I am, but that's the impact that it makes to have a member of the community who's so involved with the community to paint a mural in the community. So you can resonate with the mural, know who made it, and feel some type of attachment to it. I know you through a college track, through friends, so I know that the impact that he's had on members of my age and the impact it would be to see this in Redwood City where I've grown my whole life. Samaria Bernales, by the way, sent me the video. But I'm here to support Castro, and I see the mural and I see myself, I see the past, and it's crazy to me how we've gone from being a small town to having Facebook in the corner. And I think Castro captures that very well. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jasmine. Mr. Anthony, is it Gorarte?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
My name is Anthony Gomez.
Gomez.
Greetings, council members. My background is in youth development with the city of San Mateo, Foster City, and now recently Redwood City through PAL, Boys and Girls Club in Sal. And I also am representing Templo, which is a group of collaborative artists that focus not only on music, but with youth development as well. Unlike many of the people that spoke before me, who are supporting Mr. Castro, I did not grow up in Redwood City, but I grew up in our sister city, I'd like to call it, in San Mateo. But I did spend a lot of time here, both as an adolescent and now as an adult. When I see this mural, it depicts the sister city of Redwood City to me. Some of the symbols that you see here, aside from the Virgen de Guadalupe, you see symbols of hope. You see symbols of power. You see symbols of struggle with the United Farm Workers flag.
Mr. Gonzalez, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Oh, well, in any case, I support Mr. Castro. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Cody Louie. Cody Louie? Oh, okay, great. All right, so that's it for public comment. And I'd like to note the great turnout in support of Mr. Castro. And I would also like to add that I received a couple of emails in support of Mr. Castro also. So let that be noted. And so then...
through the chair, I
Yes,
also
of course.
received a couple of emails in support. So your friends were coming from everywhere, your support.
Chair Rodriguez, if I may
Yes,
now.
please.
What we'd like the council members to do now is you have a scoring sheet, it should be in the back of your packet. If you could please go through and ask more questions of the artist if you must, or talk amongst yourselves. But rank each artist, each art option from 1 to 3, with 1 being your first choice and 3 being your last choice. After that, we will compile the scores. We can do it live if you want. And the top 2 options will move on to final review by Supervisor Warren Slocum.
Very well.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions or anything that you'd like to discuss before?
No, I just want to thank Jose, Arthur, Angel. I want to thank you all for submitting, going through this process. It's going to be good, and I just want to thank you all for your work, for doing what you do. Thank you.
And Victor, when will the results be made public about the
The
selection?
results of this scoring?
Yeah.
We'll do it right now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just like we did it for the
So we should pass
for
them,
the yeah.
pass them around. Beatriz? Oh, and one more.
Oh. Oh, it's already, okay, that's, yeah. This is going to be easy. It's a grand slam. It's a grand slam. Yeah. Like those.
Pues, se necesitan acercarlos. Pero, mira.
mine? Oh, it's probably mine.
To number 1.
Is that mine? Oh, there was no need for me to. Sorry, difficult.
Ya te dije eso, que tenían que poner más cosas en Unforeseen y menos Redwood City. O mejor como cambiar los desplazamientos de aquí. Como de la opción que tenía aquí, tenía estos, como tenía estos, pero eso mejor aquí. A mí me gustaría ver, pero me gusta más esta porque la Virgen y luego que hay como estos, la Lilía de Redwood City, como los fields. Luego aquí también unas cosas me gustan, pero no me gustó que hace. Why are we showing that? Why are we putting that on Middlefield? Why are we putting that up? Porque aquí es Middlefield.
So similar to the process that we did last council meeting with the Midfield Road redesign, the 2 lowest scores would be the ones to move forward to the next round.
Okay. And so in this case is option A and option C. The 2 lowest.
Under the total.
Right. Okay. So option.
So B and C.
So it'd be option B and option C.
B and C. Okay. All right.
So which one was B and C?
Can I have one just to look
Oh,
at
okay, there we go. B and C. Okay.
Okay. And the other ones.
Tengo más comentarios.
I'm sorry, can you explain why we're presenting 2 to Supervisor Slocum and not the top one? And I'm asking because this process has changed this year, and it's really not clear.
Yeah, as an advisory board, your recommendations will go to the supervisor, who will ultimately decide with the staff which one to select. The comments that we've heard tonight will certainly be part of that discussion with the supervisor.
Okay. And so according to the numbers shown on the screen, the submission, mural submission options that will move on will be option B, Mr. Jose Castro's.
Slight change.
And option C.
A, sorry. Option A. I hadn't clicked out the last.
Oh,
number.
I see. Okay.
Sorry.
So it's option A. Yeah. So option B, Mr. Castro moves on, and option A, Mr. Koches also moves on. Thank you very much. We'll move on to supervisor's report, if we have one tonight.
Yeah, if I may introduce Maggie Cornejo, who will be here as the newest aide to Supervisor Slocum. Irving was going to be here tonight, and I just want to say, Irving really looked forward to giving a presentation to Mary Martinez for all her great years of service, but he got sick. So he went home ill today, and he will be back next month or at a time that Councilmember Martinez can make it, so we can do a formal presentation to thank you for all the years of service that you provided this council.
Thanks very much. Go ahead, Maggie.
Excuse me.
We all know you.
Oh, they left already. I was going to thank the Siena Youth Center. Okay.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Good evening, council members. My name is Maggie Cornejo. As you guys know, I was with NFO Forward for about a year and a half, and now I've made the transition to becoming the new legislative aide for Supervisor Warren Slocum. And I'm really excited to be a part of not just the D4 team, but continue to help my community and continue to help my district, which is my home district. I'm originally from North Fair Oaks, in case you haven't known. But I will be assigned the city of East Palo Alto, and Irving will continue to help North Fair Oaks, and as well as will be, in the area for anything that's needed.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if we can have a county's manager report.
Just very quickly, as we run out of time here, just a reminder that the parking lot at 2nd and Middlefield is open for business. It's 2-hour parking during the day, and there is no parking after 10 p.m. We've seen light use of it. We're getting around to the businesses to make sure all the businesses know that it is open. We've put signs up saying parking here. And additionally, just to update the council that we will be meeting with an ad hoc committee and walking the 5th Avenue undercrossing there over the railroad to look at a way to beautify that. And I believe that's coming up early March that we're going to do that. We hope to do some planting this spring to bring some immediate beautification to that area as we really plan out the larger segment of that. And that is my report.
Thanks very much. And then council members' reports. Do you have anything to that you'd like to say?
No, I got, and I think you all got the invitation from Supervisor Horsley about a community convening, I believe it's on March 22nd at the Belmont Sports Center. And if I remember correctly, the purpose of the meeting is to, what is the purpose? To figure out how to talk to people and organizations about housing? Something about that. It's some kind of a convening, but it's co-sponsored by Supervisor Slocum. Do you know anything about it, Mike? Or?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Oh, okay. So anyway, March 22nd, I think council members should have gotten emails. Yeah. You did? Okay, all right. So, should be interesting.
Anybody else? I'd like to add again the fact that Mary is going to be stepping down from the council. Tonight is her last time, though she will come back next time for the big prize. That'd be great. That'd be great. And I think that's all. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Good night.
Thank you.